Hello and welcome back to another video, and welcome to a brand new show that we're going to be doing on this channel. And as you can see in the title, this show is called This Week in Eorzea, where every single week we're going to go through all of the news in, out and around Final Fantasy 14. Yes, this is going to be a new show on the channel. It's going to be a weekly show, so yeah, obviously we're going to do it every week, and we're going to go through all of the news and everything that's going on and happened in this week of Final Fantasy 14. So if you haven't subscribed and you want to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the game, make sure you do that now, and also hit like as well, because it's very kind of you. Also, obviously this is a brand new show, so the show will develop and get better over time, so do obviously bear with me a little bit, because I'm trying to get used to the new show. As I'm trying to, develop it a little bit. Any suggestions or any ways to improve the show, any ideas for segments and things like that, put it in the comments and I will certainly take those on board. But without further ado, let's get into what happened this week in Final Fantasy 14. How can we not begin this week's episode without starting off with the Final Fantasy Billboard Fiasco that happened? An absolutely bizarre, quite hilarious story, to be fair. So essentially what happened is the owners of Rain nightclub, which is on Balmug server, purchased real-life billboard space to advertise an in-game events, which is essentially like a DJ summer party event. It was called Summer Bash. Essentially, they were advertising a summer DJ event, which is actually quite common in the kind of, the world of Final Fantasy 14. There's a lot of DJ party events, and the shows that do often get showcased on Twitch. However, they don't usually get real-life advertisement on billboards in the real world. Now, these billboards were allegedly, they were said to be put up in Texas, which we know because they have been seen, and California, but I don't think anybody's found those, so we can't really say that. But they have been put up in Texas. Now, where this becomes controversial, because on the face of it, it seems just kind of funny, but on the billboard they used in-game assets, which they're not allowed to use. They used characters wearing data-mined clothing from an event that is not out yet. They changed the outfits using add-ons and mods and things like that, which we know are not allowed. They've included logos from Final Fantasy 14 and trademark images, which is not allowed. And also the Rain nightclub and the Balmug server has a reputation for ERP. If you don't know what ERP means, it's erotic roleplay on the game, which is, each to their own, I guess. It can be seen as a bit odd from the outside world, especially. There's a lot of issues that come with that, and I'm sure that we're thinking, like, obviously this is copyright infringement. Now, I saw on Twitter, I believe, someone from the Rain nightclub event or organisers said that they did not believe that the billboard actually broke copyright infringement or was fair use because the event did not make money. Yes, so people from the event that were organising it said that they believe that the event did not infringe copyright, as the event makes no money, so it's a non-for-profit event. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know much about law. I particularly don't know much about US law, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. But that remains to be seen, I guess. So the DJ, one of the DJs that was performing, called DJ Potate, so we can pretty much assume that he's a Lalafell, posted a picture of the billboard on Twitter. The image has now been deleted, and DJ Potate was due to perform at the event. Now, the problems with this, as I'm sure you've guessed already, is that you can't use third-party tools, and third-party tools were used to create images on the billboard. You can't data mine, and they did with one of the outfits I believe the Vieira was wearing, was a data mined outfit. You can't use copyright material, for obvious reasons. I guess the server and the event has a bit of an NSFW reputation, which may not give the right kind of publicity that Square Enix wants. Yes, and perhaps it's not the best advertisement for the Final Fantasy community as a whole. The fate of Rain nightclub and the participants and the people involved in organising it is currently unknown. Square Enix, as far as we know, up to this point of me recording this video, has yet to comment on it, and I don't know if they've been banned or not yet. You would assume that some sort of recompense will come eventually. I do believe the Discord that they was using to advertise the event, which was on the Billboard, has now been shut down, and probably pretty unlikely that the event will take place. So I found this clip on Twitter from Twitch streamer Liffy, I think that's how you say it, I apologise if I've said it wrong, that's showing that the Billboard was actually quite effective.
The South Docks, alright. Let's fucking go! I'm fucking losing it, bro. Look at this shit. How many fucking people are here? They're all fucking here and they're pissed off, dude.
Something that was absolutely hilarious, that was an article that came a bit later on from PC Gamer, said that there is currently an army of catgirls. Now, let me get the quote. Currently, an army of catgirls are blocking anyone from entering the ERP zone in Balmug. I'm going to read that again. An army of catgirls are blocking anyone from entering the ERP zone, quote, in Balmug. What world we live in? Final Fantasy XIV, inventing sentences that no one thought would be said before. So, yes, that is the state of that at the moment, and obviously if there's any major updates, I will let you know in the next episode, but that is where we're at for the time being. Now let's move on to our next story. Data center drama. So, data center travel has finally landed into Final Fantasy XIV, and it immediately broke. So, data center travel is essentially where players can travel data centers to play with people that they've not been able to do that. Essentially, if you don't know what that means, is that there are servers that are on data centers. Now, if you're on, let's say, like Light Data Center, you can travel between the servers on your data center, but previously you've not been able to travel outside of your data center to visit people on, like, Chaos or whatever. That is now not the case. You can now go and visit people on other data centers, and you can go visit people from pretty much across the world. You can go from EU to US to Japan and so on, and Oceanic and things like that. So which is really exciting. A lot of people obviously have international friends in this game, and they can finally play and meet, have their Warriors of Light meet up with each other. Unfortunately, the data center travel was overwhelmed, is understatement. Where Final Fantasy XIV said it was receiving 15,000 requests to data center travel every minute. This meant that Final Fantasy XIV had to close the service to try and fix it and, I don't know, I guess expand it and make it work better. I could tell I'm a technical mind, make it work better. Now, the problem with this is that some players managed to travel to other data centers, and they got there, but then the service shut down, and then they couldn't leave. So essentially, they got to another data center, but then they couldn't get home. Now, the problem with that is, I guess it's not an enormous deal in a sense, but you have to bear in mind when you're on another data center, you cannot use all of the in-game features, meaning that you can't use free companies, link shells, retainers, and things like that. Also, if you are, you know, like in an EU server like I am, and an EU data center like I am, and you go to a US one, your ping is probably not going to be very good. So that's the thing that you have to deal with. Square Enix say that they're working hard to resolve the issue, and we're expecting it to be fixed, well, within the next few days or any time now, really. It might already be fixed by the time this video goes live. But fortunately, most players were taking it quite well in a light-hearted way. We know that big technical attempts like this very rarely go off smoothly, especially on the first go. So most players are quite patient with this. Some saying that they were stuck in an airport, which I thought was quite funny. And to end this news video, we're going to talk about, just briefly summarize and go everything that we can expect to be coming in patch 6.2. So we know that patch 6.2 is now going to be called Buried Memories, and it's a 2-part patch. We're going to have 6.2, and then a few months later we're going to have 6.25. 6.2 will come in August. Now, the most important feature of this patch, hands down, is that we're finally getting 800 glamour dresser slots. And for most of you, I'm sure I could stop speaking there, because that's all you need to know. The game has been saved. Thank you, Yoshi P. But there is a bit more information that we will go into. So, there, of course, will be more MSQ, more dungeons, more trials, and things like that. And the trial will have a normal and an extreme difficulty. The new dungeon is called the Fell Court of Troya, which is quite interesting. And in the MSQ, we will be expected to spend more time with the character Sid. And who doesn't like Sid? Whenever we do quests with Sids, it's always very, very fun and certainly eventful, shall we say. About the trial, we know there's going to be normal and extreme difficulties, but other than that, we don't know anything else. And there will be a new Pandemonium raid called Abyssos, Savage, and Normal difficulty. And there'll be a new Unreal trial, Containment Bay S1 T7. I think that's a Heaven's Ward one? I can't quite remember. So that's the basic summary of that. There will also be duty support added in the MSQ for Snowcloak, the Keeper of the Lake, Som Owl, the Airy, and the Vault. Steps of Faith has now been reworked into a solo battle, which I think is really cool. I'm going to have to go back and do that again, because I want to see what that looks like. Thorn March has been revamped as well, because that's the King Moogle thing. Essentially, they said that the... what's it called? The Subduty Spot AI found the fight too complicated, so they had to rework it to make it simpler, which is quite funny. There'll be new tribal quests for the Omicrons, so that's pretty cool. We'll see. I think there's a gathering tribal quest, so if you're a gatherer, then that's for you. Also, Adventure Plates will be going out of beta, and they'll be having more tools, and they'll also be used in Mahong, which is pretty cool if you like Mahong. Also, PvP Season 2 will start, Crystalline Conflict Season 3 will start, and Rival Wings will return. We have job changes. We have, know that Dragoon and Astrologian changes are currently on hold, but they are working on adjustments to crit and direct hit damage, but we will expect further details on that specifically to come later. There will also be new relic weapons coming in patch 6.25. They'll be unlocked through the Hildebrand quests. There will be the legendary Mandeville weapons. The progression is centered around questing, and updates through the Mandeville questline and the Mandeville weapons will be through all the way through patch 0.6, all the way up until 7.0, whenever that comes. There has been a little bit of controversy around this in some of the player base, complaining that they're going to have to do some questing to get the relic weapons, but considering what the grind's like for the other ones, I think that's a bit dramatic, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. I mean, I really enjoy the questing in this game, so this is something that I'm very much excited about. I'm really looking forward to doing. And I mean, look, if you're not into the questing, I mean, I'm surprised you've got this far in the game if you're not into the questing. But if that's the case, you know, you've got the escape button. You know, it's there for you to use if that's really really your thing. But yes, I mean, this is something that I'm actually really excited for. I like playing through the stories in this game. So if you want to see me play through the Mandeville questline, follow me on Twitch, because I'm going to be doing that live on there. Cheap plug, but anyway. So we have the new relic weapons coming in there. And we also have a completely new game mode that came out of left field. No one expected this. I had no idea this was going to happen. This has not been mentioned at any point previously. But we're going to be getting something called Variant Dungeons, or Criterion Dungeons. So, these dungeons are variable difficulty dungeons. Level 90 casual play dungeons, 1 to 4 players. So, and there's no role restrictions, and the strength of the difficulty of the dungeon scales to your party size. Now, the route of progressing through the dungeon is kind of like, I don't want to say procedurally generated, because that sounds like it's all random, but it will change every single time, and it depends on how you act as a player. So, and you're going to be exploring these new dungeons that are going to be different every single time that you play it, alongside a certain someone. So that tells us that we're going to be experiencing these dungeons alongside an NPC that we obviously are familiar with. It'll be interesting to see who that NPC is. The fact that they're selling it as a certain someone may suggest that it might be a fan favourite. I myself have absolutely no idea who it is, but it'll be certainly interesting to see. Yes, and you will have different story outcomes depending on your choices within this dungeon. Also, inside the dungeon, as you're doing going through it, you will be allowed to job swap on the fly, which I think is a very, very cool thing to allow just a lot of customization within these dungeons. I think it sounds really, really cool. And I mean, I've got to say, the fact that this hasn't even been mentioned, this hasn't been a selling point of the expansion. This has just come... I mean, obviously they've been working on it a long time, but for us it's come out of nowhere, and I think that's just incredible. We also have higher difficulty versions called Another Path, which is challenging for level 90 players. You have to be in the usual tank, healer, and DPS party composition. The structure of the dungeon is predetermined. There is no NPC companion, but the focus is not on the story and, you know, the job swapping and the gameplay and the casual side of it. The focus is on the challenge. So it will have a similar visual outlook as the Criterion dungeons. It will look very similar, but it's not the same. And there will be no revives, so there's no player revive, so there's no res mage or anything like that. You'll have a certain number of lives, and when you run out of lives, you are done. And it's sort of, they say it's extreme level in terms of difficulty balance, basically, which sounds extremely cool. And it also has Savage, Ass Savage, as people I've heard call it on Twitter. So with the Savage level difficulty, there's no matchmaking, so you have to go in a pre-made party. No methods of rezzing, so you get your certain lives, I guess. But if you die, if the whole party wipes, every enemy that you've killed respawns. So it's going to be extremely hard. And so essentially, what this dungeon is, especially on the Savage and the hard difficulties, is just like, it's a whole dungeon, which is a massive boss fight, essentially. There's a lot of things to do at endgame in terms of progression for, you know, hardcore players with raiding and trials and so on. And there's a lot, I mean, there is a lot with casual, which is leveling up like your various jobs and, you know, doing other bits and bobs. But this is kind of something that kind of fits in between if you're kind of like an intermediate casual kind of dipping into hardcore. I think this is something that's going to really suit that person. And I mean, that person kind of, if you're on the spectrum of that, kind of suits the whole player base, really. I think this is going to be a fantastic addition, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. And I really can't wait to see who that certain someone is. And then we come into the last part of this patch, and it's Island Sanctuaries, which will be coming in 6.25. Now, if you don't know, Island Sanctuaries is essentially the Animal Crossing Stardew Valley kind of game mode that is coming into Final Fantasy Endwalker, where you get your own island and you get to be a farmer, essentially. Now, from that, we've got some imagery of the map of what the island will look like, and it seems that the island is going to be quite big. It was kind of oddly compared in comparison of size to a Rodigan, so it looks like it's going to be quite big. Everybody's going to get an island, so it's not going to be like housing, so we're all going to get one, and everyone's going to get one for free as well, which is nice. It's nice to get stuff for free. It's being kind of categorized as solo casual gameplay. And you will be gathering materials, you'll be caring for creatures, building facilities, crafting, and so on and so on. What you would expect from this kind of game mode. You do not need experience in crafting and gathering. You don't need to have those jobs level up to do this. So it's completely separate from that, which I think is nice, because obviously that you don't want to stop people from trying the game mode because they feel like they can't do that because they haven't leveled up any crafting and gathering jobs, which is good. So you're going to be able to grow crops, you're going to be able to collect critters. Some of these critters are going to be really rare, and they're actually going to be shiny. So if you're into your shiny hunting in Pokemon, you might be into your shiny hunting in Island Sanctuaries. You customize your base in terms of its appearance and its functionality. You'll be able to have your minions roam freely around your island, which is cool. None of it uses gil, so it has a separate currency and storage system from, you know, what you normally have, which I think is a relief. You get special rewards for the game mode. Yeah, so it's the full-on Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley game mode. It looks like it's massive. It sounds massive. We don't have any footage of it yet, unfortunately, but that will be coming in the next live letter, so we'll have to make sure we look out for that. Essentially, what it sounds like to me is what I'm sure some will relate to this. It sounds like what garrisons should have been in World of Warcraft. It sounds a lot better than that. So, but we will have to wait until to see what it looks like. But I am looking forward to it. I have to say, patch 6.2 looks massive, and patch 6.1 was massive as well. So it looks incredible. The content cycling in Final Fantasy XIV right now from Square Enix and the team is incredibly impressive. And to be honest, I can't keep up with everything. I don't know about you, but at the moment I'm unable to keep up with everything. But we'd rather it that way than the other way around, I'm certain. But that's everything that's happened this week in Eorzea. And if you're interested in seeing what happens next week in Eorzea, make sure you subscribe. One thing that I'm going to try and do with these episodes as well is I'm going to shout out a community video that I really liked this week from a creator. So obviously, if you have any suggestions for those as well, please leave those in the comments. This week I'm going to shout out the Closer in the Distance Final Fantasy XIV with 1,000 singers from the Final Fantasy XIV community, because that was just a very wholesome video to see, and it's a brilliant song as well. So I'll leave that link in the description. Please go check that out. But without further ado, that is the end of this week's video. As I say, that's everything that's happened this week. If you want to see what's happened next week, please hit subscribe and like as well. And if you want to see me playing through some of the MSQ and stuff like that, of the patches and the Mandeville questline, stuff like that, please do follow me on Twitch. But that is it for this week, and I thank you all so much for watching. I very much hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.